Hey everybody, and welcome to another segment of AstrologyAnswers.com's weekly forecast. My name is Terence. The week begins on Monday, April the 29th, 2024. And on Monday, the moon that always sets the public tone, the public reactions, is going to be in practical, work-oriented, pragmatic Capricorn. A good sign to start the new work week, because with that moon in Capricorn, we're more inclined to get the job done. However, around 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time, the moon, it will be in a square or hard angle to communication Mercury. Now, Mercury is more rational thinking energies, where the moon is more emotional subjective energies. And when these two planets form tension with each other, there could be misunderstandings, jumping to conclusions, but it's only from about 8 to 10 a.m. In early evening Pacific time, the moon in Capricorn will be in harmony with innovative, progressive Uranus in Taurus. This is very compatible energy because they're both in earth signs. And so this could bring in some excitement, with emotional excitement going into the early evening Pacific time. But this is very favorable energy for getting out of a rut, trying new things, breaking limiting habits. Tuesday, the 30th, the moon it starts off with the moon continuing in pragmatic Capricorn, earthy Capricorn, but 8:20 a.m. Pacific time, the moon enters into Aquarius. Aquarius is ruled by innovative, progressive Uranus. That moon in Aquarius, we're more inclined to be looking at the future, be more open to more progressive ideas. Now, the moon will be in a stressful angle to social Venus and profound Pluto around noon to about 1 p.m. Pacific time. Relationships here could be going off track, but the moon Pluto, because Venus represents relationships, but the moon Pluto could trigger a lot of deep introspection, a lot of soul searching, because of what there might have been some mishaps, miscommunications with relationships. Also, Tuesday, the 30th, the following Tuesday, May the 7th, is going to be the next new moon. And I mention this every month when we're moving into the last week before the next new moon. The new moon is about new beginnings, a new focus, new attention. The last week before the new moon is a time of wrapping up the issues from the previous new moon, or if it's already been wrapped up, sometimes it just feels like we're in a holding pattern. The point is, the energy is winding down, and if you're trying to launch any important new projects, it would be best to really look at after Tuesday, May the 7th, when the energies is winding up, ramping up, as opposed to winding down. Now, on Wednesday, May the 1st, the moon continues in eclectic, progressive Aquarius, and it's going to be in harmony with discerning, intelligent communication Mercury, mid-afternoon Pacific time. This is very favorable for writing, for conversations, for being able to express your feelings, because Mercury is the expressiveness and the moon are your feelings. On Thursday, the 2nd, the moon is continuing in eclectic Aquarius, but it's going to go void of course from 2:28 a.m. until 11:52 a.m. And as I mention every week, when the moon is void of course, it means that the moon is about ready to change signs, but it's no longer making aspects to other planets while in that Aquarius sign. And then 11:52 a.m., the moon goes into Pisces, and we're starting a whole new 2.5-day cycle, the cycle of the moon through each sign. And when the moon starts making new aspects, then the energy is very activated and there's a lot of more movement. But when the moon is void of course, and it's no longer making any aspects to other planets, the energy is flat. It is unproductive energies. It's okay to continue what you've been doing, stick to the routine. Maybe it's pretty favorable for reflection, for resting, but you want to avoid making really important decisions or starting new events when the moon is void of course, because if you did a chart for the moment you began this new job, this new project, and the moon is void of course, the outcome would be very hard, would be very slow, would be very sluggish to get it off the ground, and it may not really go anywhere. Now, after the moon goes into Pisces, 11:52 a.m. Pacific time, the emotional public energy, you're going to feel a big shift. Because when it was in Aquarius, Aquarius is more intellectual, discussing your feelings. But when the moon goes into Pisces, you're feeling your feelings. You're in the moment. And there's more compassion, empathy, with the moon in Pisces, where when the moon was in Aquarius, it's more detached and intellectual. Early evening on Thursday the 2nd, the moon in Pisces will be favorable, called a sextile, to Venus. So Thursday, early evening, Thursday, very favorable for relationships, for attending any kind of entertainment venue, because Venus is all that creative energy. Very favorable for any kind of romantic energies, very sociable energies if you needing to attend any type of networking social event. Friday the 3rd, as the moon continues in Pisces, assertive Mars will be in harmony, a sextile. Sextile is 60 degrees. It's positive opportunities. And Mars is that ambitious, driven energies in harmony with transformational, powerful Pluto. It's strongest the first 12 hours of the day, Pacific time. You're still feeling it the last 12 hours. It's just that motivation, that courage, that drive to initiate projects is really strong the first half. But we're in the last days of the new moon cycle from earlier, April the 8th, as the energy is wrapping up and winding down. So this is not favorable in most cases for launching major new projects, because we're in the last days of the last new moon cycle. But if you have, if there's been projects that's been ongoing, then that Mars-Pluto, you can really achieve your goals, accomplish a great deal from previous projects. Also, when the moon is in Pisces, late morning, Pacific time, it's going to be in harmony, a sextile, with the sun in Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign. The moon is in Pisces, a water sign. Water and earth are very compatible energies. And so when the public emotional moon is in harmony with the sun, there's more ease, there's more comfort. Relationships play out a lot easier. But the moon in Pisces will then cross over contracting Sirius Saturn around 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. That could be a time of lots of responsibilities or doing a lot of worrying about your responsibilities. On Saturday, the 4th, the moon is continuing in Pisces, but around noon to 1 p.m. Pacific time, the moon in Pisces will be crossing over Neptune. Neptune is the ruler of the sign Pisces. That moon in Pisces with Neptune, and Neptune is also in the sign of Pisces, it's triggering a lot of compassion, empathy, idealism, can bring in a lot of spiritual energy, healing energies. And then the moon moves into fiery Aries, assertive Aries, at 1:41 p.m. For the next 2.5 days. And then when it leaves Aries, it goes into Taurus. So the moon in Aries is in the shadow phase before going into the new moon in Taurus, which will be exact on Tuesday. So with the moon in Aries, there's a restlessness and anxiousness. However, it's best not to start anything new just yet, but you may be feeling this anxiousness to keep busy, and so exercise or, accomplish and finish up all the projects for previously. And then on Sunday, the 5th, as the moon is in Aries, it's in that shadow phase. The shadow phase, good for introspection, good for turning inward. So it's more of an internal process as opposed to the new moon on Tuesday, which is now more external, now starting to focus on new goals, new directions. This Sunday, going into Monday, but especially Sunday, could be very favorable for resting or even preparing for what you'd like to start launching and motivating yourself from Tuesday over that next week or so. I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you next week with my next segment. Until then, be safe and well.